God damn it, I got something in my eye. Obviously gonna have to edit that out. Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 4 about campaign governance and campaign roadmap. So what exactly are we going to be talking about here? Some of these terms might sound a bit foreign to some of you. So depending on the size of your campaign, the size of the office you're running for, developing this campaign and running it could be a very huge undertaking. If you're bringing a lot of money through the door, you're hiring people, you're budgeting for all those expenditures, creating strategies to make sure all that gets done, you're buying advertising, you're creating advertising. Much of this could be like running a business, and a lot of campaign managers have equated running large campaigns to running a small business. So accordingly, this chapter, I thought it would be best to use my experience in creating startups and working in the corporate strategy sector to apply those learnings here to how you can best set up your campaign structure, and then the governance around that, and then the roadmap to deliver on the campaign. I know all this is foreign terms right now, so let's take a second to define some of the key concepts that we'll be using, or key words that we'll be using throughout the chapter. So what is campaign governance? What do we mean by governance? Well, governance is a system of organizations, procedures, and policies that are used to optimize the management and the effectiveness of the campaign. So that's like a little bit like boring, dry speak. So like, what do you mean, Chris? Well, essentially, it's how does everything work? How does this thing work? That's what the campaign governance is. It's like what employee or what member in the campaign is making what decisions, how are they empowered to make those decisions, and then what are the like strategies and policies and procedures in place to make sure that we make true on those decisions and actually deliver them to market or deliver them to voters. See, I'm already slipping into corporate speak, delivering it to market. So let's think about campaign governance in just another moment. Other big term we're going to be using throughout here is what is the campaign roadmap. So if any of you have ever worked on a large corporate initiative or done any like program management office, project management office, like PMO it's referred to, if any of you have ever worked in that capacity, then you've probably seen a very detailed project plan. And these are normally built in like Microsoft Project or Microsoft Excel. A lot of the times they're in a Gantt chart view. So maybe for some of you that have done this and didn't enjoy it, I might be triggering you right now, having flashbacks to crazy PMO work. So I've done quite a bit of that in big, giant corporation. And I wanted to take those, it can be like painful, difficult work, but it's super useful for everyone. So I wanted to take those learnings about creating a very detailed project plan in these very user-friendly views and apply that to the campaign as well. So that's what I'll be referring to as a campaign roadmap. It's essentially a project plan of how to deliver on the campaign. So those are two big themes we'll be talking about as we get into the lessons. Campaign governance, which is basically how do we get things done. And then campaign roadmap is show me the visualization and the time frame and the steps of how we're going to get those things done. So governance structure, we'll just cover off quickly here so you can have a preview when we jump into lesson 1, which is going to be about the kitchen cabinet. So you'll see here we have on the top the candidate and the kitchen cabinet. So that's you and your like most trusted advisors. And then underneath that, you would have a campaign manager who really sits across the entire campaign. And they typically have people under them. We'll talk through all the details of this, guys, but like a communications person, a scheduling person, a fundraising director, a volunteer coordinator, policy advisor, and then volunteers would then help all of those folks. So that's a loose structure, not loose structure, but a high overview of the structure that we'll be speaking through throughout the rest of this chapter. So in lesson 1, we'll start talking about that kitchen cabinet that I just mentioned. And really that's like your most trusted advisors, a group of people that you can go to bounce ideas off of for like high-level strategy and guidance on the campaign. We'll talk through all that. Lesson 2, we'll talk about campaign staff. So these are people that you actually hire for the most part. We'll talk about options around that as well. Lesson 3, we'll talk about the role that your family has in the campaign. We've already started to touch on this in the last chapter, but there's a time and a place for your family members in the campaign. They can be very critical assets, but at the same time, they can also be a big liability. So we'll talk through when they're assets and when they're liabilities and how to focus on making them big assets to the campaign. Lesson 4, we'll get into that campaign roadmap I was talking about. I'll show you guys the detailed tool that I built for you and how to use it, and it automatically maps everything out for you. Should be really useful. And then that's it for Chapter 4, Governance and Roadmap. So let's jump into it. We'll pick up in Lesson 1 with the kitchen cabinet in just a minute. Thanks.